Okay. So there we are live on YouTube now. So Suprabhatam everyone once again. Thanks for coming over early morning for coffee here. I'm sure you'll be excited to know more about the session, what we will start with and what is Cup of Coffee Learning is all about. So first of all, I think, yes, I mean, all of you are here. It shows a very clear hunger that we all want to learn something new, add value to our own professional knowledge and add value to our own professional journey and grow more in life. And that's what the reflection is. And that's what the endeavor of Cup of Coffee Learning is, to share more and more knowledge by bringing in faculty speakers from different areas of work, whether it's a soft skill, whether it's technical skills. That's what we are overall looking at. So once again, welcome to Cup of Coffee. What I will do is I'll take you through. First is that we are telling you, yes, we are live on YouTube now, and the session is going live on YouTube. After the end of the session, we will be mailing it to you, the YouTube link. So anytime if you want to refer and go back to this session, you can always go back and refer to the sessions again. And some of the points, if you have missed noting it out, you can write it down again. So what's Cup of Coffee Learning all about, and what's the purpose of starting this is what I will take you through. Post that, I will be sharing this mic to Arlene. Arlene is one who will be taking us and introducing to the speaker, and couple of one of the sessions of breakout, she will be doing it, introduction sessions, and that's how we will go about it. And then we'll hand over the mic to Suman, I think, and she will be taking us to the subject today, which she's talking about, and all of you are excited. That's why you are here, right? So what's Cup of Coffee Learning all about? It's all about adapting holistic approach towards knowledge sharing and building overall effectiveness of an individual. And that's what we are focused on, increasing your overall effectiveness with power pack sessions, which are highly relatable to with industry experts. And we would like to give you the practical and implementable actions points that can support to step up to your next level of growth. So our clean objective is, overall objective is to how can we impart the knowledge and you all can take it back to your day-to-day work life and implement some of the things that you feel that is important for you to grow in your own life. Yeah, and that's what Cup of Coffee Learning is all about. In the past, how many sessions we did till now? We started with the first session called team roles, building team roles. It's all about understanding what are the teams and how in a team, what role each individual is playing and what role you are playing, and how do you understand those roles, and then how do we adapt and make use of those team roles to effectively making use of your project or any work that you are doing as a whole as a team, right? Second was on financial happiness. The spelling itself is happiness like that. That's how the speaker would like to call about it. But it was more about what is financial happiness? How do we invest ourselves? Where do we invest? How do we control our investment? And how do we retire without any loans and baggages that is there? How can we do earlier retirement also? That was the session all about it. And how do we sometimes feel that loans are expensive, but the speaker did came and told all of us that how loans can be effectively utilized. Then we did a session on evolving mindsets. How do we challenge our own mindset and how do we improve productivity by making our mindset more evolving. And the last session which we did was on emotional fitness gym. How do we exercise our emotions, maintaining emotions by controlling our own anger, and those are the sessions which were done. These are the past 4 sessions, and one more session which was there on personal branding, where we talked about how do we create our own personal brand, whether it's on social media, whether it's on when we deal with our colleagues, when we deal with our friends, or whether our family, right? How do we create those personal brands? So that was the session all about on personal branding. So with this, we are coming on a new session today. But before that, here's one request. Request all the participants can keep the video on, because when the speaker is speaking and if somebody has a question, then the speaker knows with whom she is speaking to, right? Some of the key things that needs to be kept in mind: keep the speaker view option on the right hand side on top. You can see speaker view option on. So once you're on that view, whoever is speaking, that person will come on your screen immediately. Second is, how do we avoid disturbances? Please keep your mic off and when you're not speaking. write on some notepads and use your laptops and note down the points which the speaker is talking and which you feel is important. And if you drop off again, logging in back, do participate. It's important that everyone participates, ask question, respond. We will definitely respond to all the questions. Wherever possible, speaker will respond to the question, but do participate in this. So everybody's participation and the right asking the right question also is about knowledge sharing, right? And if you have anything to raise the hand, or you can also type your questions in the chat box. Do have a learner's mindset and share your insights within the group if you feel there is something important that you'd like to share on a specific point, and be open to understand different perspectives of people. So nobody is right or nobody is wrong. So if somebody is sharing their viewpoints, that's perfectly all right. Not that the person is wrong or right, right? That's how we have an open mindset for different perspectives in life. Yeah. Of course, at the end, definitely there will be a small gift that will be a token of an article or PDF, which will be shared with you, all of you, so that once you have free time in the evening or in tomorrow, whenever it is, you can read those free articles which are there related to today's sessions. With this, I will hand it over to Arlene. We will do a breakout, and Arlene, over to you in terms of the sessions that we want to continue going forward with this. Thanks for once again, everyone. We'll see you at the end again. Yeah. Okay. Over to you, Arlene.
Wonderful. Good morning to all of you, and we are happy to have all of you this morning. What we thought we'd do is have a quick round of introduction. Vipin, can you please put up the slide with the instruction?
Right. I'll do that. Sorry. Okay.
All right. So we're going to be, Bipin is going to be putting us into different breakout rooms. And while we get into that room, you will find maybe 3 or 4 familiar faces in that room. What we'd like you to do is introduce your name, the organization that you're from, and which function do you belong to. Along with that, we would also like you to think about one personality trait that defines you. Okay, so this is the personality trait recognizes or sees in you. Just for an example, it could be someone who's extremely confident, or someone who's like extremely competitive or a go-getter. So whatever it is that is your personality trait, we'd like you to share that with members in your group. I'd request Bipin to now break us up into meeting rooms. You will get a sign to join a meeting room, and we'll see you back in the main room in a couple of minutes.
So there are 48 participants, so we'll make it 10 rooms.
Yeah, sounds good.
4 to 5 participants per room. That should be okay,
yeah,
right?
That's good. That's good.
Everyone, one request: please get into the room. Please accept the invitation for the room so that you are able to interact and share your own self, introduce your own self, and then other participants also, because most of the participants are repeat participants. They have been there in the sessions. So once we start interacting, the family becomes big, and whenever we come online, we know each other whenever we are there on the rooms. Yeah. So here you go. I'm creating the rooms. So totally, Suman, if you want to stay away from one of the logins because you are 2 logins, so you can decide that option. So I'm opening up the room. Please do a self-introduction. Here you go. Yeah, most of the rooms, many of the people are there. Anybody outside the room? Say, Himani, you are outside the room.
Yes, good morning.
Himani, we are putting you into room number 2, so you can do your self-introduction and give one personality traits of yours.
All right, okay.
I think room number 2, a lot of people have not joined in. So Jiten, we are putting you your room number 8. Joe, good morning, welcome. Would you like to get assigned to one room for self introduction? I've assigned you to one room, Joe. You can introduce yourself to the team and one personality trait. That's it. Introduction is about name, organization, and function, and the personality trait that you have. Hey, welcome Rajesh. I'm putting you in room number 8 for a self-introduction. Rajesh? So Amit, you have been put in room number 8. Do your introduction. Tell the team who are you, where are you from. Okay, so everyone is out of the room, I guess.
Yeah, we're back in the main room.
Okay, great. Hope the session was okay and the introduction went well. Aline, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Bipin. Good morning. And I think that was a nice, cozy breakout introduction. I got to see a few familiar faces that I haven't met for a couple of months now. With that, give me the pleasure of introducing Dr. Suman Nair. We are very pleased to have her in our midst. She is someone who comes with over 2 decades of experience in her work in the Enneagram system, coaching and consulting career. She is also the founder director for Enneagram in India. And her journey with Enneagram goes back way back to 1997, where she was introduced to the system at XLRI by Father Joseph. She then took a deep liking to this subject, and she decided to invest some more time in it and moved back for a month to the US in 2013 to further understand how this particular system works. So the Enneagram system is actually a very ancient system on personal growth, relationship management, organization development, and how do you manage change and culture. And within the system, there is something from everyone, because this largely talks about how do we as people have a particular habitual response to the way we deal with things. So some of the key takeaways that we will have is understanding where we are and how do we operate. What are our different centers in terms of thinking, feeling, and intuition? And what are certain personal gifts that we have? What are our certain strengths? And what could be our possible derailers? And we will clearly look at what is our core emotional issue, presence or absence of it. So these are some key learnings. It's a very deep learning that one will have over the next couple of hours that we will get to know from Suman Nair. Welcome, Suman Nair. We're very happy to have you here. Some good news is that Suman Nair has very recently founded the Enneagram Academy of India during lockdown in April 2020. And with that, we move forward.
Thank you, Arlene. So welcome everyone to this beautiful journey into self-exploration to begin with. Like Arlene already shared, Enneagram is a really very, very insightful, very deep system. And if I may request all of you to please mute yourselves, and if you wish to speak, you could put on it in the chat box your question. Bipin, can you mute everyone from your system? Yeah, thank you. This is the only time I get attention. I better take this. So what I'll be sharing with you is about Enneagram, and in the time that we have, we will just be able to not even scratch the surface. It is so deep, and it almost grows on you the more you engage with the system. You will notice that I'm using the word system and I'm not using the word tool, because there are tools and every tool has its own use and advantages of utilizing it in certain situations. Enneagram sits beautifully with any of the tool, because all the tools, and I'm also trained on all of them, by the way, MBTI and PyroB, and I use all of that in my work. And they sort of address a lot of external behaviors. You know, how, like PyroB talks about both my expressed and wanted behaviors. MBTI talks about our preferences, the dichotomy in our preferences, etc. Enneagram helps to understand a little more deeper where these behaviors are coming from. So in many, many organizations, when I'm working with both of these, the tools, the psychometric tools that are available, and the transformational system, which is Enneagram, especially when you're working with leaders, and leaders, I don't just mean the CXOs or senior leaders, anything to do with leadership, anything to do with managerial development, anything to do with behaviors, which also means if you want to work to make teams work together. And I will be sharing some examples of how Enneagram has been used in the corporate for various change initiatives. And I have worked with these organizations using Enneagram. So if you can give me a minute, I just want to put up a few slides, and I'm just managing this with two systems so I can see all of you. I still can't see all of you, but most of you. So just give me 1 minute while I share my screen. Okay. Can you just put a thumbs up? Can you all see the screen, please? Okay, thank you. So my endeavor to address Enneagram today in this webinar is to talk about what are the Enneagram types, what is the construct of Enneagram, and we will also look at, when I say construct, there are various elements to Enneagram, which is like the types, the wings, the arrows, energy centers, development levels, etc. And I've also listed all the areas where you can actually work with Enneagram. And we'll also take some questions. If your question is something about what I'm sharing in the moment, please put your question in the chat box, and between Arlene and me, we'll try and pick up that question. But if your question can wait till the end, then it'll be great. So welcome, let's plunge into the world of Enneagram. So before we get there, a quick opportunity for all of you to check what your type is. And this is just indicative because I will not have time with each one of you to speak about this. Look at this list and pick up any two statements that resonate most with you and prioritize out of those two, which is number one, which is number two. And put in the chat box, please. Let's do this in the next 5 minutes. Thanks, Vital. Okay, keep it going.
Interesting. Everyone who's answered is from the same network.
Say that again, Vital.
I said out of the first 3 people who answered are from the same network.
Okay. Don't take too much of time, because if you think too much, trust me, you will notice something in all the 9 statements. Then you'll be confused. Wonderful. Chetan, do you have a question? Okay, so we have most of you responding. Wonderful. Great. So I think that's 57 responses. Thank you. Okay, stay with the numbers you have identified. We may be able to speak a little more about how much of that holds true for you. Let's move ahead. If you know how to change your name in your Zoom account right now, put that first preference that you got in this list ahead of your name. So I'm doing mine, so I'll just show you. If I do mine, you will also know my type soon. Let's hold this a little bit. You know how to do this? Go to no, next to mute button, there are those three dots. Go there, go to rename, and just ahead of your name, put the first number that you got. Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So as you continue doing that, let me go ahead and talk a little bit about why are we looking at Enneagram. How does Enneagram help? So Enneagram actually helps us to look not just at our individual strengths, but also looking at what is it that I'm not noticing about myself. Because when we get feedback from others, people usually give feedback on our behaviors, which is external. They give feedback on what they see or what they experience, right? Enneagram helps us to look at where is that behavior coming from? What are those triggers for me to behave in a certain manner? Which is why Enneagram is called a transformational tool. Because if I want to really make any changes, then I go so deep within myself. And it's not like a quick fix, it's a lot more deeper. Enneagram also helps us very interestingly to know how people interpret situations differently. We all know that we have perspectives. We all know that different people bring different kind of understanding into situations. But when you work with Enneagram, especially let's say you're doing some work with a team, and if you know what each of their Enneagram type is, you sort of can anticipate um, in terms of what will they present, especially when they're presenting fears, doubts, anxieties. Where is all of that coming from? And they're not expressing these because they want to sort of put a hurdle into a plan or strategy, but it's coming from so deep as a need, and how we can become more tolerant towards each other as well. And it also sort of helps us to look at the transitions. Each one of us in different stages in life, I'll just come to that in a minute. We transit into the next stage in life. So if I understand my type, my transition also will become that much more smoother and easier. Why this becomes important is, in the last 30 years of my professional career, out of that 20 years is where I've exposed myself to Enneagram. So in the 30 years of my career, working in various capacities and heading HR, being an HR leader with, for a couple of organizations, I noticed that so many people at some stage in their career will say, and this happened to me also at some point in time, will say, I really don't know what I'm doing. This is not exciting anymore. And why that has happened, based on my understanding, is that we pick up something as a career, especially, many of us around 90s, 80s, 90s, 2000, that when we started our career, we picked up something that seemed interesting, but we did not really look at how do I connect with my career? What do I bring to the career? So we learned whatever needed, whatever was required to be done, and we continued to be successful because there is a basic intelligence all of us have. So when many people say, I really don't know what I'm doing today, and when they learn Enneagram and when they see, oh my God, this is where my energy lies. So Enneagram may not be a direct sort of reporting mechanism for careers. So you can't use it to say, okay, if you're of this type, you will get into this career, but it will give a direction in terms of where is my energy aligned to, what job will I enjoy more than the other, etc. Okay. Um, all of us for many years now have been familiar with the work around emotional intelligence, and more organizations are looking at the emotional element of behavior around, whether it's teamwork or leadership development, etc. And many different words are used for emotional intelligence in organization. Enneagram helps really to understand what is my core emotional need and how do I express it. And interestingly, all of us will have a certain emotional home. I'll talk a little more about that. So our natural expression will be a particular emotion because we belong to a particular type. And how beautiful it is if we become aware of that what triggers for me always is anger. Oh my god. Which means that small issue, big issue, how will I respond to that? With anger. Or there could be someone who will say small issue, big issue, how do I respond to that? With fear and anxiety. And the quantum of anger or fear or sorrow may be low, less or more, but that is how I will respond. And when I understand that, my conversations with people, the way I set expectations in work relationships, in personal and social relationships, can be so much more um, meaningful and rewarding. So that's how Enneagram helps. Um, and also, when you're doing these tough conversations wherever, not just in the organizations or as role holders within your jobs, anywhere, when you're doing these difficult conversations, it helps you to become more committed, connected, compassionate. It gives you a certain awareness of how I need to communicate this message. And this happens because you know your type, and if you're also able to know the type of the other person. Okay. And interestingly, in Enneagram, there are certain types which needs more work to be done for relationship to build, and some types where you don't need to spend too much of time and you just connect, because that's like an energy connect that happens, right? So we will see all of this as we go by. I will just briefly touch upon the history because it's all available on the net if you wish to read. It's Literature says Enneagram is almost 4,000 years in existence in different forms. And many spiritual communities have used Enneagram for personal growth and development. The first recorded work around Enneagram is by George Gurdjieff, where in 1915 he sort of went around collecting people and sharing the wisdom of Enneagram. But it was all kept very mystical and mysterious till about 1947, when the first book on Enneagram was established and it was published. For our consumption, around 80s is when Enneagram entered the corporate world. And there are some stalwarts who brought Enneagram into the corporate. So there's a lady by the name Helen Palmer, and she runs a school which is called Narrative Enneagram. There is Riso Hudson, there is Sandra Maitri. There are so many people today who have done a lot of work using Enneagram, and all the books are available if you're interested. In India, around 1990, this got sort of, this came into awareness of many people. And I was just sharing yesterday, I think I mentioned this to Vipin and Arlene, that I had to fight for attending this program because at that time, the organization I was working with said, "What? Enneagram? What is that? We don't want you to attend." And from Mumbai, I had to go to XLRI, and I got trained, with Father Joseph. And then I went to the US and got myself certified and all of that. But few organizations where I have personally worked with Enneagram, I've listed there. And when I'm saying worked, it's almost like trained 300 managers in the organization, because what many of the companies they sort of experience is, if we just train one person or 10 people around Enneagram, it's just the change that you can see in that small group. But if we want to bring a culture change, let's get all the managers pick up a certain language which is about how are they talking about themselves and how are they relating to the others. So these are some of those organizations, and as we go by, if relevant, I may share some of examples of how we use there as well. And we've also been working with many of the other practitioners right now in India who we are training under the Enneagram Academy of India. Now let's come to the real message of today's webinar. Let's look at what Enneagram is all about. So if you look at the design and the name, Enneagram stands for Ennea is 9, gram is design. So this is the Greek word apparently. So it's a design of 9, and every single element of this construct has been defined, which means what does the circle mean, what those arrows mean, what does it mean when numbers are sitting next to each other, and to the extent that there have been a lot of work, research work around what is the angle between each of those lines and what they mean. Okay, I haven't gone there because I think it takes a lifetime to study Enneagram, but it's very interesting for those of you who would want to know. Now, the circle of the Enneagram just means that while we are all individually different, we are still connected with one universal energy. We are still connected with the basic human needs and values. You know, we all feel hungry, we all want to rest, and those are the basic humanness is what still exists. That's what the circle means. And the circle also means, please be with me on this right now, that while we have our Enneagram type, and the type is the way we respond to the external world, there is a possibility that I go beyond my type to that external circle, which is I can become typeless. That is how the spiritual journey of Enneagram happens. Okay, that's a possibility. So I'm just going to mention this now and move ahead, because the spiritual element of Enneagram is a completely different discussion altogether. But the circle means that we are all connected. Now let's look at each of the type. And all of you have also found a type for yourself. So please be with me on this. Type 1 is driven by accountability. They are also called perfectionists. And they're called perfectionists because for them, they believe their motto is to always be able to identify what needs to change and make that change. So these are the people who can easily put together a process, a system, standardization, uniformity. They are logical, they are linear in their thinking, and all of that. So that's what a type 1 is, perfectionist. And this name perfectionist, again, there are some schools of Enneagram who have given names to each of the types. And there are some schools which says just call the number, because the moment you use a word, it already creates a bias. But for our conversation right now, I'm going to use the names so that you become familiar with what each type is all about. Now, how do you identify a 1? Most of the ones that I have seen at work, if they're wearing a full arm shirt, they will not be comfortable folding up their shirt. Most of the type 1s that I have seen, if they're wearing a collared shirt, it's like a good collar. You know, I interestingly, I've also had someone say to me they don't like to wear like a Chinese collar. You know, and all the examples I'm sharing is my examples. So this is not yet like researched and proven. So please take it only as that. And I invite you to also start noticing some of these things in people. So the strength of one is they bring a reformation wherever they are. The derailer for one is because they are constantly striving for for perfection. A lot of times they are not happy that they have reached there. They're still wanting some perfection. So there's some benchmark they're constantly looking to reach up to. And that whole thing in their mind is, I know what is good, I know what is perfect. It may be a little difficult for them to accept feedback for improvement. Okay. I know a friend of mine who's a type 1, so structured that, when she goes to buy grocery, so she walks into this typical, what store do you call that? The mega mart kind of a place, right? So she walks in and she knows she needs to walk ahead, and to the left there is a little alley, and there to the right there is a rack where sugar is kept. She knows that, and that's where she goes every time. And one day she gets to buy sugar, she goes there and there's no sugar. Trust me, she can make a big issue about this. She calls the manager and she says, where is sugar? You can't. So the manager says, ma'am, we had some problem with some ants and all that, so we just moved that from there to there. Can't take it. And she's also learned that she can't make too much of a fuss about it. So what she does is she holds it all within herself. When she comes out, it all comes out on whom? On the person who's driving her. It could be the driver or the husband or the daughter or whoever else. Okay. So ones want everything in place every time. Right? And one example of type 1 is, and this is not tested again, just based on the energy, is Amir Khan. Someone we all sort of know that there is a person like that. So that's perfection. Any other example, if you can think of, please type it in the chat box. I'll be very happy to know that maybe I can use that next time. Let's move to type 2. Type 2 is also called a helper, nurturer, completely committed to making others happy, comfortable, successful. At all times, they are available. They are the 3 a.m. friends for many, many other people. Okay. Harshita, I'll come to your example. Steve Jobs is possibly not a good example for type 1. Sachin maybe. Yeah. Okay. So type 2, nurturer, helper, committed to support others, always available, very pleasant, always willing to serve. So the type 2s are the people who are taking care of your tea, coffee, snacks in the meeting room. And it's amazing to see, it does not matter what level the person is. It does not matter, because we cannot say sometimes that, oh, this person is part of the admin team, so he's organizing for tea, coffee. No, a very senior leader, if he or she is type 2, will ensure tea, coffee, is the AC working okay, is the water available to drink. That's typically a type 2. While their strength is always to support others and to be able to get to being available to the others, the derailer for a type 2 is they're not able to really understand when they are needed. So the others may sort of see a type 2 as an intruder. Okay. And others may say, hey, hello, I don't need the support. I'm quite capable. Please stop helping me all the time. It's very difficult for type 2 to digest that. So the type 2 will tend to sort of feel very bad and will start blaming themselves somewhere of not being able to be good enough for others to take help from them. So sometimes if I'm talking about a pure 2. There is also an influence of many other things there. So a type 2 sometimes may also overeat and or indulge themselves in some things to get that love for themselves, because they feel the others do not love them as much as they love the others. Okay, in extreme situations. A good example for a type 2 is Mother Teresa. So notice that we don't have any information whether Mother Teresa felt let down when people didn't take support and all of that. Okay, so there are various other things that are influencing each of the type. But for you and me, it's good to be mindful about, am I overdoing and indulging in things which are not helping me because I believe others don't need me? So that's type 2. Are we going okay? Okay. Type 3. For a type 3, it is about achievement, success. They love performance. They love to be called the best of the lot. And if any of you are familiar with MBTI, they are the typical, the ESTJs in the organization. Okay. The best face to be put out there, hardworking. The type 3s are the ones who will have a list every morning to check off, not just work related, and a lot of times even personal things and all of that. So they don't like to carry forward something for tomorrow. And they're doing all of this because image is very important for a type 3. And many of the type 3s, interestingly, also wear mostly branded stuff. I was working with an organization, and so I was explaining type 3, and I was doing a debrief with a lady who's a type 3. And when I shared this only branded, she said, no, Sumana, I don't wear branded. I said, okay, where do you shop from? She said, from Bandra, Linking Road. I said, okay, where in Linking Road? You know, there are these air-conditioned shops behind the roadside shops. I shop from there. So for them, it matters from where they are buying what they're buying. You will not find a type 3 getting to work unshaven, getting to work with slippers. You know, they're quite particular about how others are perceiving them. Status is important. The kind of cars they drive is important. The title in the job is important. So all of this for them creates that image. Also for type 3, like type 1, not easy to receive feedback because they're really working very hard to make others believe that they're good. And how to spot the difference between 1 and 3, Himani, is, you know, ones are, like we say in Bambaya language, kadak. You know, they are like there, you know. 3s are like a 1 will wear more of whites. 3s may wear also a pink. You see the difference? Okay, so 3s are also somewhere where 1s dress up for themselves, 3s dress up for the others. That's the simplest difference that I can share. Okay, so the derailer for a 3, like I said, is they are extremely sensitive about how others are perceiving them. Arlene, if there's any comment that I need to take care of in the chat box, can you please let me know? I don't want to miss it. So,
Suman, sorry, there is a comment from Amit Mittal asking, can you please up statement along with the types that you are talking about? No?
I don't know what that means, Amit.
Yeah. Amit, can you elaborate more? Put up a statement, okay.
Put up the statement meaning?
Can you please put up a statement along with the types that you are talking about? So,
wait,
okay.
That you shared, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So you want me to go back to that statement? Is that what you're saying?
Easier to correlate the things. I mean, when you're talking of.
Okay, if that helps everyone. Helps everyone? Okay, so let's just do 1 and 2 then. This may take a little time, guys, but if it helps, it's fine. So we've done 1, 2, and 3. Okay, let's go to 4. Type 4s are creative people, and their creativity may be very different. I mean, it's not necessary that they are artists, painters, story writers. They can just be good at knitting a sweater. That's fine. There's a lot of dexterity that they have in whatever they do. They're also called individualists. They don't really appreciate working with many people. Leave them alone, they can create magic. But if you push them too much working, to work with the other teams, they will withdraw, they will not really contribute, etc. So typically, you will not find a type 4 in the corporate. In the last 20 years, there must be at least just about 2 or 3 companies where I have met a type 4. They do not like structures and hierarchy and all of that. So usually you will not find a 4 in a corporate job. But if they are in the corporate job, you will still find, one example. So I'm coaching a high potential manager in one of the tractor tractor sale firms. And this gentleman, when I started coaching him, the first conversation we had, he actually took his camera around his room where he has these huge music mixers and all of that. And he spent 35 minutes telling me how he practices, how he does his riyaz, and he has put Arjit Singh's concert picture and he stuck his own face to Arjit Singh's face. So he's in the corporate, but his need for creativity is he's always taken care of. That's typically a type 4. So the derailer for type 4, I already said they're individualists and they're not comfortable working with too many people around, etc. So let's also look at an example of 3 and 4. So a typical example for 3, I think somebody mentioned, I'm not sure, is Shah Rukh Khan. Works very, very hard is what we've heard and all of that. And another example for type 4 is A.R. Rahman. Even if he is doing like symphony music with many people, he does the bass note. And then everybody else will bring their music to A.R. Rahman's bass music, And if you notice, you don't see him talking too much, being in everybody's face, etc., which Shah Rukh Khan does in many situations. And again, I'm saying these are examples just based on what I have noticed. We have not given any of them any test. So while you're quoting, please be sure that you're just sharing a perspective and not a definitive representation. Let's move to 5.
Question which is there, Suman, is out of an actor generally works with the team, then how can they be type 3?
So type 3s will work with teams so long as their image is intact, remember. Type 4s find it difficult to work with teams. Type 3s are your blue-eyed boys in your organization, blue-eyed girls in your organization. Okay, they'll be working with the teams. I hope I've responded to that. So let's move. Thank you, Akshat. Let's move to type 5. Type 5s are the ones who are like this, which means they're curious, they're exploring all the time, they want information and data for everything that they do. If you go and say hello to a type 5, they will first see everything about you in LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google before they come and say hello to you. So data and information about you becomes more important for them than you as a person in your skin. That's typically a type 5. So the strength for a type 5 obviously is they will have all the information that you will need in any given situation. Even while during the conversation you mention something, they'll first pick up the phone and quickly check what you're talking about, and then get into the conversation. That's how important data is for them. And on a funny note, Riso Hudson, who's one of the promoters of Enneagram, gives an example of how fives think: when you have the head, why do you need the body? So they also sort of tend to ignore themselves quite a bit. So while they may be absolute intellectuals, they they may be dressed shabbily and wear whatever they can lay their hands on. Steve Jobs is an example for a type 5. Okay, intellectual, didn't really take care of himself very well. And fives are also introverts. They don't care about the others of the emotions of the others so much. And we have read about stories about Steve Jobs of how his interaction were with the others. Yeah, Einstein could also be a good example for a 5. If you need information for the past 10 to 15 years, go to a type 5, because they also store a lot of information. Okay. Um, the derailer for a type 5, like I mentioned, is relationships are difficult for them. On another lighter note, it is said a type 5 will not enjoy in their own birthday party as well. It's like too much for them if they have people around them. We've spoken about the example for a 5. Let's go to type 6. Type 6 are also called loyalists. They need a lot of confirmation before they trust anything and anybody. So type 6s are the ones who are asking many questions all the time. Vivek, that is true. They're both introverted, 4 and 5. So 6s are called loyalists because they don't trust initially, but the moment they start trusting, they will do anything to make you successful. Okay, so if you have a 6 in your team, they will make it very difficult for you till the time both of you arrive onto the same page. They will ask so many critical questions. Remember, the 6s are the ones who will hold you to the purpose, to the mission, but it can be irritating. And if you have a 6 in your team, they're the ones who will create all your BCP, business continuity plan. It's only because of a 6 that you will think of a BCP. So they bring a lot of value, but the demeanor, initially, you may get irritated with a type 6 sometimes. Some other example for a type 6 is they believe in preparation to the extent that a lady of a type 6, do we have a type 6 lady here? Anybody? Can you please raise your hand? Just want to do some work. Anybody here? 6? Harshita, Harita. Harita? Hi.
So Suman, that's who I thought, but the minute you describe this, I need to change this almost
Okay.
immediately.
Okay. Okay. No problem. Okay. So a 6 typically is somebody who, and this is based on my experience. See the handbag of a lady who's a type 6. You will find makeup, of course, some food, of course, medication, basics, stationery, basics, anything that they may require. And they hate to be unprepared in any situation. And I've had such interesting things people say that they carry with themselves. And also look at their work draw, whether it's a man or a woman who's a type 6. They will just have everything that is required, um, you know, and that's also the preparation. Let's say Anuj, does the type 6 resonate with you, Anuj?
Yeah, a type 6 and a type 3 actually.
Okay, we'll come to type 3, but tell me if this is true. Do you have a medical kit at home?
Yes, my wife does keep one.
Okay, but how often do you check the expiry date of the medicines?
I don't check much, but my wife does.
Okay, that's one of the ways type 6s ensure preparation. And what's important about this example is many of us, only when we need the tablet, we pick up the tablet, we check the expiry date. There could be some real solid type 6s who every week will check and clear out the expiry dates. You know, they will check the machinery at home. And so preparation is important for a 6. The derailer for a type 6 is they are driven a lot by also fear and anxiety. Fear and anxiety. Vittal, your question about is that an example for type 1 then 6? Once keep everything in place because they want to find it there out of perfection. Once. 6 is
Wouldn't they also ensure that it is not expired because otherwise they're accountable for the problem?
So beautiful question. Please listen to my answer, everyone. The drive is different for the two of them. The motivation is different. Like you rightly said, if one is checking the expiry date, their motivation is that they don't want to be caught unaccountable, that somebody will say to them, you know, why are you keeping medicine expired? The motivation for 6 is that they don't want to be caught unprepared, that they don't have the medicine necessary for themselves. So ones are doing it because they want to be seen accountable. Accountability is a lot of an external manifestation. Preparation is an internal preparation. Okay, we don't prepare for the other's sake. So that's the small nuance between the two. That's correct, Vivek. They are more process oriented with accountability as type 1. So that's what the 6s are. And the derailer, like I said, is people may get very irritated with the questions that 6s come up with. Any example that any of you can think of for a type 6? It can also be a character from any movie. Vivek, not necessarily. Not all nurses may be type 6. Amit, hold to your question that you are type 6 but not inquisitive. I will just come to that. When we talk about wings, Amit, I'll come to that. Any example anybody can think of? Did you all watch the movie Three Idiots? Do you know the character of Joshi, Harman Joshi?
Sharman.
Sharman Joshi.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. The character, not him as a person. See, we took the example of Amir Khan as a person for type 1. For a type 6 example is Sharman Joshi's character in Three Idiots. You know, all the rings that he wears, all the prayers he does, there's a certain anxiety he lives with a lot of times. And I'm coaching 2 leaders right now who are type 6. It's interesting that after every 2 statements, they use the word probably. Doesn't mean everybody who used the word probably is a type 6. But type 6s are uncertain a lot of times. They are unsure a lot of times. So it's very comfortable for them to position themselves as well. Probably this happens. Probably I'm ready, whatever. So that's typically a type 6. Type 7s are also called adventurers, high energy. They leave home in the morning with a certain energy and they come back at like 10 p.m. in the night, same energy. It's amazing how they can have so much of love for life. Their eyes are twinkling all the time, and they love to talk about so many things in the same moment. And they're also really driven to do a lot of things in life. Talk to a type 7, they would have done music and drama and cooking and book reading and horse riding and bungee jumping. If they've not done it, it is on their list to be done. Okay. Bucket list, many people create at a certain age. Type 7s have a bucket list every weekend. In this week, I want to do this. We'll see. Bang on. Thank you. So, a type 7 is also called an adventurer because all of this, they are really quite high risk takers. They want to experience a lot of things in life that gives them energy. If you go to a 7 with a problem, hey, I'm really, I've got this very bad supervisor and I'm not enjoying my job. What they do, what they say is they'll put their arms around you and say to you, come on, let's go and have a cup of tea and then we'll discuss the problem later, and the later never comes. So they are also pain averse. A type 7s do not like to talk about pain. So if there is pain, they sort of ignore it, which may lead to other problems for them. Okay, that's also the derailer for a 7. Another derailer for a 7 is, 7s only enjoy happiness. And another derailer for them is that they can create multiple options to a given situation. And they can bring many perspectives. They love variety, so they can go from one to the other to the other. That may slow down their decision-making process sometimes. Slow down. I'm not saying they don't take decisions. I'm not saying they take bad decisions, but it's just that it may slow down the process of decision making for them. I was working with an organization which is into research. It's a market research firm. So the managing director got in touch with me through LinkedIn, and he said, I believe that there must be a way out for a business problem we have. And we have already consulted the big firms, and still we seem to be ending up with the same problem. What is the problem? Our market share is reducing. And it was many years ago when I was still quite naive in using Enneagram for business. So I said, look, I know something called as Enneagram. Do you want to check if this can help? He said, I've tried everything, so let's do it. So he and his 8 reportees, so managing director and 8 of his reportees, went through Enneagram with me, and they all got their reports generated, etc. And we found that out of those 9 people, there were 4 of them who were type 7. And while they bring life to the organization, what would happen is they would create a market research report, and the report would come to one of these people, the 7s, and they would say, leave it on my table, I will look at it tomorrow morning. Just one illustration, there may be many other things happening. And the tomorrow morning comes, and just before when they're leaving for work, they get a call saying, hey, you know what? I've come down from the US, I'm leaving tonight, and I just wanted to have breakfast with you. Are you available? And this person will automatically, obviously say, of course I'm available. So the breakfast happens, and by the time they complete breakfast, a call comes about a client escalation, and they address that. So this report, which they had to sort of review and sign off, has now gone to post 4 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., etc. Because so many things have happened for them in that period of time. So that delay sometimes caused delay in getting back to the customer. This may seem very trivial, but this is what I have experienced. And when they got to know this, and each one of them started sharing, oh, you know what, I do this, this may be slowing down the process, which any of the other big five that they worked with did not help them to see what they were doing to contribute to the problem. They were looking at business strategy, management decisions, all of that. But what am I doing as a leader to contribute to this problem? And once they figured this out, they quickly put together support mechanisms. They said, okay, I'm a type this, I'll support you like this. And obviously, they found good energy, to move ahead from there. So this is one example how while sevens are great people to have around you, they also need to be supported with some solid closures.
There's one question from Vivek saying that are seven also on multiple works and looks for perfection and leave in between some projects?
Absolutely right. They can multitask very easily. And I'll just come to perfection in a while. Please remember to bring this up if I forget when we are talking about the arrows. Okay. Yes, delays happen for seven, like the example I just gave you now, because either they are multitasking. And one classic problem in every coaching conversation that I have with the type 7 that they bring up is, I'm not able to prioritize. Classic. I'm doing like 10 things and I don't know where to put my attention on. Because what they pick up is what gives them energy in that moment. It's almost like in Bombay language, we say, jo maza aega, wo kaam pehle karenge. That's and a classic example for a 7 is Ranveer Singh. He can just wear anything and he can be anyone. Look at his energy. We have what is called Enneagram Learning Circle. Some of us in this group are part of that as well. So we have someone there who's a type 7. Most often when he's in the meetings, he'll be wearing shirts with floral prints, which you will not find a 1 wear or a 3 wear, or 4s may wear, but 7s, they love it because it's different. For them, everything needs to be different. Okay, that's typically a 7. Let's move to type 8. Type 8s are called challengers, rebels, also leaders. And I'm a little wary of using leadership for a type 8 because every type can be a great leader. But here, what a type 8 does as basic energy is they are able to show up and stand up in any situation and make things happen. Extremely outcome oriented, and they fight for justice, fairness. They like authenticity. They don't like to lie, or they don't like to hear anybody else lie. So there's a lot of pressure 8 works with to always be seen to be authentic and fair. That's the pressure they have. And they're also sort of good decision makers. So between 7 and 8, that can be a great combination to work with. 7 brings a lot of options and variety, and 8s can pick up those options and close with a solid decision. So the derailer for a type 8 is because they take charge and make things happen, people can perceive them as power hungry. And their stature also, you will notice type 8s, they stand with their broad shoulders, and they stand there with their hands on their waist, and so that power is always sort of represented in a type 8 if you closely notice. And another derailer for them is because they want to just pick up and make things happen, others may also find them to lack empathy. They don't really listen to people. They're like a bull in a china shop. So that's typically an 8. Any example anybody can think of?
I think Himani gave an example of Arnab Goswami.
Yeah, Yeah, Arnab can be a good example for type 8. We are not doing political, otherwise I had a great example, but we are not getting there. So
Let
that's,
me ask you a question.
yes.
A lot of our examples that we're giving are of entertainers who are trained to be like that. Arnab Goswami is trained to be like that. Shah Rukh Khan is trained to be like that. Can we actually experience examples of people who are not trained to be that? Because Amir Khan is trained to be that.
Okay, Vittal, you spoke just now, right?
Yeah, I spoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, my video is off. I didn't realize that.
no problem, Vittal. Thanks for
So,
bringing that
a lot
point.
of the examples are entertainers who are trained to be like that.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Because in my experience, I've found it easy to relate to as examples. And I already said none of them have been put through any test. This is just what we see in them from an external viewpoint. Of course, if I get a chance to talk to them and find out their types, I will be better equipped. But right now, that's all we have. But in just a little while, we will look at our own group here and look at some real conversations of the type.
Okay, great.
Okay, thanks for bringing that up with her. Okay,
Suman,
yeah,
we just have a request. Can you put up those statements once again for people to see?
I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go now to type 9. Just notice where 9 is sitting, right? It's like right in the center on top. So 9s usually have this capacity, and I'm saying capacity, to actually take a holistic view of everything. Whether they have the capability, because capability is what is learned. Capacity is what I already have in within me, which I might not even have paid attention to. So it's possible for a 9 to take a holistic view, and while they have this opportunity to look at a holistic perspective, 9s are also called peacemakers. So they're constantly striving to maintain peace, no conflict. Come what may, I will ensure that I will not sort of rock the boat. And because of that, they always tend to take a back seat. They're always behind the stage, you know. So, well, the advantage of having a 9 in the team is they will ensure they're constantly talking to people and ensuring that no fireworks happen within the team, and they will ensure that the peace is maintained. But for themselves, the derailer is they're not able to call out when it is required. They're not able to give a feedback or have a difficult conversation sometimes. There is also this energy in 9, which is like a lethargic energy. They love to sleep. You know, the way they deal with stress is they sleep over stress. You will also find that you cannot really encourage a 9 to go to the or to follow any discipline of fitness, etc., because they would rather be home and they would rather sleep more rather than getting up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. and go for their walks, etc. That's typically a 9. Any example you can think of for a 9?
Not an example, but are diplomats generally 9s, Suman?
Not necessarily. There may be a diplomat who could be a 9 that we don't know of. But
Okay.
like I said, all nurses, for example, are not 6s. So many people say all nurses are type 2s because they are helping people. That's not true. All leaders are not 8.
Yeah.
Right? So I have one example. I don't know if Akshit, I don't know if earlier role of Hrithik Roshan in Lakshya. Yeah, lazy and lethargic. But don't just take the lazy lethargic for a 9. 9s are also behind the scene a lot of times. They will not claim the leadership as they can. So, pardon me, I have one example, but don't shoot me for this example. I may be completely wrong, which is Mr. Manmohan Singh. You know, he had the great opportunity to lead from the front, but we didn't see him a lot as a leader out there. So, Vittal, what are you saying? What will people not understand, Vittal?
I put a name up, only the people from my network will understand.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I thought it's something that I said. All right. So this is all the 9 types. Okay. Do you have any question about the type, any of the type?
Yeah, maybe I have a question.
Yeah.
I think we often see, with my experience, maybe personal and also observation, people tend to shift amongst these characteristics, don't they, depending on situation or phases of life?
I'm glad you brought that up. Was it Anil who spoke?
Yeah, that's Anil, yes.
Thanks, Anil, for bringing that up. So a question that I was sure will also emerge here is, but you know, Suman, I feel a little bit of this also and a little bit of that also. So how do I know which type I am? We actually go to any of the type depending on the situation. But remember, we come back home. Okay? There is one type which is home for us. So we may use some of the characteristics of the various other types, but there is one type that we belong to, and that will never change. So I will briefly share with you how the type gets formed. I think that's also very important to know. As early as when we are in our mother's womb, we are getting an exposure to how our mother responds to emotions. What are her emotional experiences, right? We get an exposure to that, and that is our first window to the external world. And when after we are born into the similar context, similar situation. Our mother is same, her relationships are same, her emotional experiences and responses are same. Nothing much changes in terms of the emotional context, right? So it sort of gets confirmed to us that, oh, the world is like this and I need to be like this. So that process of conditioning and socialization begins at that point in time. And we live life in stages of 7 years. So every 7 years, we move to the next stage in life, which is what I meant in the first slide about transitions. So from the time we are born up to the age of 5, 6, 7, largely, historically at least, or traditionally, our families and our mother impacted us majorly. And so we sort of started developing a certain kind of personality because of that. Then we went to school, and in the school, we found suddenly too many people, too many children. Oh, there are other children also, and they're also reacting, responding in some way. And that's when our own personality started to get a little more solid, because my response to that situation, whether I got rewarded or, whether I got appreciated or spanked, my personality started becoming a little more solid. And you will notice a lot of times schools call parents and say your child is a bully, or they'll say your child actually sits in a corner. So the personality has already started developing. But there is also still an opportunity for parents to work with the children to see what is going on and what can be done. It's not like keeping one type in mind and saying, I will make my child a type. That's just not going to be ever possible. But just to understand where is the child headed, right? So after 7 years, so 8 to 14 years, most formative period in our life. And many of you with children of that age, you would have noticed that this is also the stage for experimentation. The first stealing money from papa's, mama's wallet happens. The first kiss happens. maybe a first date happens, the first smoke happens, all of that between this ages of 10, 14, 15. And during this time, if suppose somebody gets to know that the child is doing any of these, how did we respond to them as elders also sort of creates that, adds on to that personality to, in that age. So between 15 and the next 7 years, 21, is a consolidation age. So here's when they are forming their values solidly based on all that has happened in their life till that period of time. So here in consolidation, they are also choosing their careers, and they're, choosing their hobbies. So you'll find some kids, 18, 19 years old, they'll suddenly become extremely spiritual, or they'll suddenly get into too much of music. So this is that period when they're struggling to find an entity for themselves, finding an identity. So by 21, during this stage is when our personalities are solidly formed. So Enneagram also says that your type is when you are at 21 who you are. And because next 7 years from that 22 to 28 is when you're forming you're finding your job, you're building a house, you're buying a car. So what is interesting is in this stage we are moving away from ourselves, because our focus is now shifted from ourselves to family building, career building, relationship building, and all of that stuff, which is why here is where the stress begins. Here is where we are losing our identity and struggles start building, emotional struggles. So from 28 onwards, you will notice we are going farther away from ourselves. Why is there so much of work around self-awareness, mindfulness, etc. happening in the corporate world today? For people who are 35, 40, 50, or so many of us, is because we have really moved away, and we need to just slowly come back to our core in terms of who we really are. Enneagram helps us to get back to that core, to know ourselves. Okay. Any questions right now?
Suman, Vivek had asked one question. Is that other side of the arrow has to say something like that, like they get gel well, or so they get along? That's the question from Vivek.
Yeah, I'm just coming to the arrows, Vivek. So if there's no question on what I've shared till now, then I'll move on to the Sharmishta. The ages are more or less cycles of 7. So from the time of birth to 7 years, then 8 to 15, then 16 to 21, 22 onwards, like that.
Suman, there's another question from
Yeah,
Hemani
I can see
with
that.
respect to, yeah.
Yeah. So Enneagram is not it's not an intelligence tool. Okay. Enneagram is more of an energy system. Energy system. And you will notice, some of you who are familiar with Enneagram already, you don't even need someone to go through a test in order to experience what Enneagram type they may be. Okay. So your neuroscience will say, and it is so true, that we will continue to develop in all of that. There is also some essence in understanding Enneagram as an energy system. That's all I can say. And maybe we can connect later and talk more about this if required. Okay. Thank you, Himani. So let's move on into the Enneagram construct. Notice I'm still in the same slide because there's still so much to cover in this construct. How much time do I have, Darlene?
About half an hour more.
Okay. So I'll quickly share the wings and the arrows because they are like simpler compared to each of the types. The wings are typically like the bird wings. So for each of the type, there are two, adjacent types which are like wings. The wings are like your neighbors. At least traditionally, many of us would remember we would go to our neighbor's house saying, hey, we have a guest and we didn't know that the guest would be coming. Can I borrow some sugar? We went to our neighbor for a resource we needed in the moment when we were not prepared for it. That's how even in Enneagram, if I am of a certain type and I have a sudden challenge, I can pick up some characteristic from my neighboring wing or the neighboring type. So if I'm working with you individually and suppose you would share with me, I find it very difficult to arrive at a decision sometimes, and then I'll probe and ask you questions around type 7 to establish is it because of 7? And then we'll also talk a little more about, can you get something from 8? So what does 8 do? So eight's characteristics, oh, I can pick this up and I can start practicing that particular characteristic, which will help me to make my decisions faster. Okay, so this is how we use the wings. And up to the age of 21, one wing is stronger than the other for us. Later, both are available for us contextually to use. There was a question just now, Arlene. What was
Yeah,
it?
Suman, the question is it possible to have a blend of 2 or more types being used in different situations? So can we shift between types is the question.
So like I said, even if you're using other types, eventually you belong to one type. And you will not be very comfortable to stay in another type for too long. So please hold your question. I'll share something more there very soon. Vital, I'll
there's one more question.
Yeah. Vital, I'll come to the loop. Just please hold on, because that I'll talk about that when we're talking about the arrows. But I just love this excitement to know more. So that's about the wings. So each of the types will have wings, and it's very powerful. And that is another part of the construct of Enneagram, which is now already moving to say we are not just our types. There is also the influence of the wings on us, which answers some of your questions about, oh, I experience both, maybe 2 and a 3 at the same time. Okay. Then
Suman, just to clarify to everyone, so if someone is a type 1, their wings would be 9 and 2?
Yes.
Have you understood that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Okay, and now let's talk about the wings. So you will notice there is the arrow, right? And the arrow has like a head to the arrow. So that's the direction. So let's take the example of 3. So for a 3, the arrow direction is a 9. Is that correct? So if the arrow direction is towards, it's called the stress arrow. So a type 3, when under great amount of stress, will behave like a derailed 9. So the same 3, which was performance oriented, and sometimes you will notice a great athlete who is a type 3, suddenly withdrawn and shut out in a room for 2 days, will not come out. And how is that explained? Because that's how 9s react, right? 9s are lethargic and lazy when they are not in the best of their energy. So it's difficult sometimes to understand what's wrong with this person who's an athlete, who's always on the ground, running and everything else. 2 days shut out in the room. What does that mean? That means there is some major stress the person is going through. Okay. So that's the towards arrow. So for each of the type, you will notice there is a towards arrow. For a type 7, this is the answer to an earlier question. I don't know who had asked. 7s who can multitask and all of that, when they become perfect, when they're under stress. Otherwise, funny, fun-loving people, lucky people, and all of that, 7s, suddenly you will find are like holding everybody accountable and saying nothing doing, you have to complete this and go, and people are like, what's wrong with this person? They're just operating as ones in that moment, but they are not picking up the positives of 1. They pick up the negatives of 1, the derailers of 1, which is why it becomes difficult for others to relate to them. So please understand this very, very clearly. When we are under stress in our own type, we pick up the derailers of the type where the arrow is headed. Are you all clear on of this concept, please, everyone? Okay. So now the same arrow which is headed towards that line is also having a backward movement, right? Which there is no head, but there is a backward movement. So the backward movement is called the growth arrow. Tulsi, you're right. Sevens can become very authoritative under stress. So the other, when the arrow is seen from the other side, it is called the growth arrow. So when we are in our extremely relaxed state, so let's say you have done any of your practices, maybe meditation, maybe yoga, maybe walk, maybe running, whatever that calms you down and relaxes you. If you have done that, there is a great possibility that you pick up the strengths and positives of the other side of the arrow. So for the same 3, when relaxed, will operate as a positive 6. And what is the positive 6? The positive 6 is they are always prepared well. They ask those right questions. They hold everyone to the larger purpose, etc. So the 3 who is otherwise only performance, image, how is everyone seeing me? Am I doing well, etc. When they are in a calm, relaxed state, they can be great, people who are strategic and who can ask those why questions, etc. Okay, so if you're working with an individual leader, for example, you already have the possibilities of understanding the type, the wings, the arrows. Venkatesh, you wanted to say something? I just thought he did that. Okay, so any questions about wings and arrows? Is that clear? So look at your own type, if your type is true.
Directions once again, please, the forward and the backward.
Okay, very quickly.
Suman, can you maybe explain it with an example? Because then it will be easier for people to understand the forward and beyond arrow.
Yeah, so that's what I had done about 3. So let's take the example of 7, because I think many people resonate with 7. So we said 7 is a high energy, multiple options person, always coming up with different perspectives and all of that, may delay their decision making process sometimes. So when they miss a timeline, they suddenly get stressed, then they operate like a derailed 1. So what does 1 do? 1 is a perfectionist. A derailed 1 will start becoming very demanding of others towards completion. So they will then not really bother or care about what's going on with people. So they will say, I have these 3 options. You pick this up, one of them, and just make it happen. Don't ask me any questions about this. This is what happens under stress for a 1. They become perfectionists. And they can create so much of stress around them also. When they are in a relaxed state, you will notice the arrow goes to 5 for a 7. So what are the positives of 5? 5s ask, again, a lot of inquiry questions to gather information to arrive at a certain decision. So 7s are not working mindlessly of creating options. They are informed options. And they're also spending time exploring, researching. Otherwise, a 7 is called a monkey mind, jumping from one point to the other. As a 5, they are like a lot more relaxed, a lot more into themselves, and they have the capacity then to spend time on creating something more intellectual and more informative. That's what 7s can do. So this is exactly how the arrows work. We go to the stress arrow without realizing, by the way, because we don't realize under stress what happens to us many a times. But the growth arrow, to use the growth arrow, we need to mindfully use the growth arrow. We don't go there by ourselves. Which is why a system like Enneagram will help you to see, hey, don't go there, go here. Okay, that's the meaning of the arrow. Saline, is that good enough as an example?
Yeah, I think that's well explained now. Suman, we have another question, and people are curious about why are there different colors on the number? The red,
Ah,
orange, and green.
So actually, there is also a lot of color representation for Enneagram, because Enneagram is also an energy tool. And I don't think I have time now to explain the colors, but there is a meaning to the type energy with regards to colors. Because I just need to
Okay,
cover one more thing before we go on to take questions, Arlene. That's why I don't want to spend time on that, because those are all
sure.
really advanced understanding of Enneagram. Because there is music which is different, you know, different tunes for each of the types to relax. There is colors, there is fragrances. There's so much in Enneagram if one really wants to look at it. So that's the wings and the arrows, and I'm sharing with you the basic construct for you to talk about Enneagram, saying this is what Enneagram is. And the last part that I want to share with you is what is called the energy centers. All of us sit in a particular energy center. So let's start with 2, 3, and 4 types. 2, 3, and 4 sit in the feeling energy center. You see there, right? Feeling energy center. They're driven by emotions. 2s express emotions, and they express it emotionally, easily. They can laugh and cry and show anger, whatever emotions express easily. 3s manipulate expression of emotion, because remember, image is important. So they will not really say what they're feeling at any point in time. 4s create expression. So whatever emotions they want to express, they do it creatively. So this is how that whole center works, that they are driven by emotions. Typically, a lot of people in this center, when they're watching movies or whatever, it can trigger sorrow. They can cry easily, all of that. 2s can cry easily in front of others. 3s will run into another room if they want to cry. And 4s will quickly sit down and doodle a drawing if they want to cry. This is how they relate to sorrow. 5, 6, 7 sit in the center, which is called the thinking center. They operate a lot in their head center, like 2, 3, 4 operates in the heart center. 5, 6, 7 operates in the head center. Logical, analytical, numbers, rationality, a lot of things that happen to them is in their head region. Okay, so we said already, 5's information is important, data is important. 6 is in their preparation. They're also very externally prepared a lot of times. And 7s are external because they're looking at adventure and all of that. So they're all operating in the thinking energy field. 8, 9, and 1 work in what is called the instinctive or body center. For them, what they experience in their gut is very important. So they're also quite intuitive, and for them, it's very difficult for them to think before they make a decision. A lot of decisions that 8, 9, and 1 do, even out of intuition and instinctive decisions. So the emotions that these three centers operate with is: the feeling center operates with sorrow, the thinking center operates with fear and anxiety in some form, and the instinctive center operates with anger. So, this is something I had mentioned earlier, that we tend to operate with a particular emotional energy as well. So, those are the three centers that we have. What I'd like to do is very quickly, I know we are running out of time, just for 5 minutes, I'm going to put you all into very small groups so everybody gets a chance to discuss. 3 people in each group. Just share what number came up to you in this, not just in the one-page test that you had taken, but also based on the discussion. Just quickly share, what do you resonate with, and maybe one example if you want to share with everyone. Is that okay to do?
Yeah, sounds good. Bipin, can you please help us with the
Yeah.
breakout room?
Breakout room? Yeah, I will do that. I'll do that.
Just 3 people in each group, that's all.
3 people per room, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just hold on. I have to reset. Just hold on. Just give me a second, please.
Sure.
Just trying to recreate. Okay. 3 people means 3 to 4 is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have recreated. I'm putting everyone in the rooms. Please be participative. Please share your numbers. Okay, there you go. Please keep your camera on so that participants can see you at least. Suman, if you can repeat again what they need to say.
I'll just put it in the broadcast. Oh, I can't do that. So Bipin, just can you put in the broadcast?
Okay.
Just say, share your type.
Broadcast. Okay.
1 second.
Share your.
1 second. Share your type.
Yep.
And yeah, there it is. Can you see? What's your type and how does it show up for you? Can they see this slide?
I can see, yeah. What's that? How does it show for you?
Yeah.
Dheeraj has not moved into the room. Dheeraj, request if you can go into the room. Yogesh has not joined the room. Request if you can, everyone can participate, be in the room and share your types, and also how does it show up for you?
So many people have not joined, looks like, no?
Praveen has not joined, Shakir has not joined, Veena Kumari. Request if everyone can join your respective rooms.
So there are 3 people in each room, Bipin, or 4?
In each, some are having 4 and all of them are there, otherwise 3 or 2. People who have not joined, then it's 2. Praveen, Shakir, Veena, these are 3 people who have not joined the room yet.
There is also Tara, Yogesh. Has Arlene joined the group as well?
Arlene, not yet. I think it's her second ID, I guess.
Okay.
Let me join one of the room and see what's happening there.
Okay, welcome back. I think everyone's back.
Yes.
I hope something came up in that discussion for all of you. Is there any question anybody has? Or if anyone wants to share in one or two statements what came up for you.
So interestingly, this is Himani.
Yes, Himani.
I had done the Enneagram about, say, 4 or 5 years back, and then again, somebody had referred, and the type came out to be different at that time. But today, when I could relate to when you first laid out the all the statements, it was tilting towards something, and then it came back to what it was when I had done it earlier. So by default, I knew that, okay, it was that, but then these statements were like, kind of pointing towards that. So I said, okay, let me just write that. And I reframed it and renamed it in the middle when you were sharing the details.
Yeah.
So that was, you always come back home. So that's, I guess.
That's such a beautiful statement, isn't it?
Actually, yes.
Wonderful. So if you can all type in the chat box a word about your experience of knowing Enneagram. How did you find just this exploration? And as you're all typing, intriguing, I agree. Yeah.
Hi, Suman.
Hi.
I just wanted to know, as you have already told that everybody has to belong to one of the type. Okay. But I sometimes feel like there are multiple types can exist, or the person can belong to multiple types. The reason why I'm saying is, some cases I feel myself something, I'm very energetic sometime, or some activity, or sometimes I feel to balance it out, no, don't fight, I don't like fight and all, or any kind of vocal this thing as well, to take a back seat. And sometimes there are, I mean, sometimes even I feel like, help others, do then take them forward. Or sometimes I don't believe, take trust people so easily, and it takes time, and after I believe, I can do anything for that person. So then how do I belong to one category, one type, and how do I understand it, that which type I am exactly? Because I'm finding like multiple things in me, and which belong to multiple type.
So which statement did you resonate with? What's your name, please? It says M.
My name is Mani.
Money.
Yeah.
Okay. So Mani, which statement did you resonate with?
No, I mean, everybody belong to one type, right?
No, I'm saying in the slides I had put up, there were 9 statements. Was there one statement that you strongly resonated with?
That is what I'm not able to.
So the problem is, I'm sorry, Mani.
Yeah.
You're using too much of your intelligence to identify a statement.
Okay.
My invitation to you is, don't think too much, which is true for any psychometric tool also, right? The more you think, there's nothing called as perfect. So just genuinely, energetically see what you resonate with. Okay. Maybe we can connect later if you wish. Connect with me and we can talk about this and not.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Suman. Thanks.
But thank you for bringing it up, Mani.
Yeah.
And thanks everyone for sharing your experience. Yeah. Yes, Suman, over to you. As we are running short of time, so in the interest of time, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to share with all of you. I can speak like for 25 days with nonstop about Enneagram, but in this little time, whatever I could share, I did. So explore it, read about Enneagram. There are some beautiful books that are available, and one of the books that I recommend is this book, which talks about Enneagram in detail. But what we'll be happy to do, if all of you wish, and if Arlene can have your email IDs, we can send you some more details, including what books to read about Enneagram and maybe a couple of articles as well. And
sorry, can you name the book, please?
Okay, this book is called The Complete Enneagram by Beatrice Chestnut.
Can you put it down in the chat, please?
Sure. Arlene, is it easy for you to take down the email IDs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
we will get the email IDs.
Okay, so then we can send them like an article also, and I will send like an Enneagram 101, which you can all go through. We are also offering our next program, the basic certification program in Enneagram, which is starting on the 21st of August. It's like 4 days, 3 hours each. There have been many other batches of Enneagram we have completed. There are some people here who have worked with us already. Ashwini is here, Ravindra is here. So if anyone's interested, we also will be very happy to offer like a discount for all of you who are on this webinar. Do let Arlene know, and then we will get in touch with you. Or you can possibly...
Suman, is there a possibility that you can give your email ID if they can connect with you for your program which is coming up?
Yes, I'm just putting it in the chat box.
Right.
If anyone's interested, do get in touch, and it'll be great. So thank you so much, Bipin and Arlene. It's been a pleasure to share what I know about Enneagram. And if anyone has a question, do connect. I'll be happy to respond. So thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Suman.
thanks. And yeah, Arlene, continue.
Yeah, thank you, Suman. Just on behalf of all of our participants, we would like to thank you today for spending the last 2 hours giving us a very insightful view of Enneagram. And it's something that has left us very, very curious. I think a lot of the audience will go on Google and try and find more details about Enneagram and discover and explore their types. Bipin, over to you.
Yeah, Suman, if you can stop the screen share, then we can share our screen.
Yes.
So you have the email ID and the phone number of Suman on the chat box. Please copy it up so that you can connect with Suman if you want to do the Enneagram session and know more about your personality types. Yeah, so let me present the screen presentation again. Okay, Arlene, over to you.
We have an interesting session coming up next on the 29th of August, and that's going to be something very, very different from Enneagram. We're going to be looking at data science. That's the in thing that's happening across the globe, descriptive analytics, predictive analytics, and prescriptive analytics. And we will give you a little bit of an overview with an extremely experienced speaker. That's on the 29th of August. So look out and watch out for the webinar link that comes in for the data science session.
Any questions for last 2 minutes? We'll have any further questions that you have for Suman or for us to know what is more about couple learning, or you have anything more on Enneagram that you want to know. We have 2 minutes, and then we can wind it up with a appreciation certification for Suman.
I think this was one of the best sessions, Bipin. Thank you so much for getting Suman here. Really enjoyed this session.
Thank you.
Great to hear that, Pramila. I think you have been a constant. I think you've taken a membership with KKL, so you've been there on every program. So good to have you here on this program.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to you for organizing this, Bipin.
Right, thanks.
I had a very quick question, Dr. Suman. I just wanted to understand how different is MBTI and Enneagram, or any psychometric tool?
So like I had mentioned earlier, any of the psychometric tool helps us to look at a situation at a transactional and tactical level. And Enneagram helps in a lot more deeper transformational level. So if you want to work using both, it will be great. But if you're really looking at change management, culture change, deeper leadership, behavioral changes, Enneagram is more useful. And people remember, Ashwini, people remember, oh yeah, I'm a type 3, difficult to forget. But MBTI, I don't know, Chad E, S, T, J, whatever. I've seen this because I use both. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's more like, this is my type. But I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in Enneagram, you're like, okay, while I am this type, but I can display X number of things to reach to the other type. It's like a prescriptive, it's like a thing where you are able to explain that if I want to go to the other type, what are the things that I can do?
More than prescriptive, I would like to call it progressive.
Progressive, sorry. Yeah.
You walk through the
yeah. Thank you.
So there is a question from Abraham that how do we subscribe to this group? So Abraham, definitely there is we're creating a LinkedIn page and there is also a YouTube page. We will share with you a YouTube link, but definitely we will keep sending you the mailers out. I think from the next time onwards, you are registered on Zoom. So you can expect the mailers also coming up, but there is nothing called subscription. It's all free. We just want to give back to the society, and so that people learn more and more, which will be helpful for them in future in their own journey, professional as well as personal. But definitely, once we are up on the LinkedIn page as well as the YouTube thing, you can subscribe to that. So whenever there is any new posts or new sessions, you will come to know from there. Yeah. So if there are no further questions, we would like to wind it up with the session. So Aline, maybe you can talk about the last slide. Yeah.
Suman, I think it's been a very, very intriguing session. And thank you very, very much. On behalf of Cup of Coffee Learning and Max Potential, we'd like to thank you and give you this virtual digital certificate of appreciation for coming and investing 2 hours with us. Thank you so much on behalf of Bipin and all of us.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Suman, just one point before you go. This basic certification course that you mentioned, was that the link that you shared some time ago, or you'd be sharing it over a personal email?
The link that I've shared is for the complete Enneagram book. It's available on Audible as well. But with respect to the basic certification course, we will send out an email with all the details once Dr. Suman has it ready for us.
Great. Thank you so much.
And Suman has already given her email ID and phone number. But in case if you have missed it out, by end of the day, you will get the mails where you can connect with her on her email ID. And then you can talk about how to go about for the certification.
Wonderful.
Right?
Thank you so much.
So good. So only request for the participants who are there that since it is a free, not free, I can say this is a more of a learning channel where we don't want to charge any of the people who are coming on this session. But only thing that you can pay us back is by whenever you get the links and the forwards of the sessions happening, please forward it to your group as much as possible so that more and more people can come and more people can upgrade themselves and upskill themselves going through these programs. That's the only request we have, and that's how you can help us by paying it back, by forwarding these messages to all your group members and all your team members whom you know when you get the link. Yeah. Yeah, Lynn?
Yeah, thank you very much on behalf of Max Potential Global. We see you again on the 29th of August. Thank you and have a nice weekend.
Thanks everyone. Bipin, thanks Suman, Dr. Suman, thanks Aline. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. So then Aline just, yeah.